Hi, my name is Eva, and today we're going to talk about some recent changes in the skeletal structure that I've noticed. These are all Mandela effects for many of us. Some of these others have noticed, some I have not seen out there yet. So a lot of people have been talking about up here at the cranium, the pinched in side of the head to the side of the eye there, that has been increasing. And I've noticed some people have seen that the neck bones are becoming much more robust up here. It's looking really nicely armored and strong compared to how it used to be. And there are the recent changes to the tailbone, making it look really kind of strangely alien-like. My last video, I talked about the patella being a bone now and a standalone separate bone from the main skeleton. Some other changes that I've noticed that I haven't seen in other places are these rib bones. For one thing, they've gotten quite flat. I recall rib bones as more of a stick-like structure, kind of like a spaghetti noodle, but now they're getting very flattened out. They look a lot more like linguine noodles. That I guess that makes more sense. They'll cover more territory that way. They'll block more incoming damage to the body. The other thing I've noticed is that the rib cage has a different angle to it now. A lot of the ribs are kind of angled like this instead of straight around. And that's getting more prominent now. So you have kind of this sideways angle to them. Let's look at another picture here to get a better idea. Okay, here's a front view. Here you can see how flat these ribs are now. Another thing that I've noticed is that, no, this was a couple months ago. I noticed a change that these cartilage areas are longer now and the ribs are much shorter. Used to be, they were pretty short, the cartilage areas, so a lot of area is getting taken over by cartilage. We're starting to see in the recent months increased webbing between the cartilage. They used to look like the old school bones where they just come around and attach, but now they kind of attach to each other, and then just one or two of these cartilage tendrils come up here. I've seen in a lot of recent photos two really closely attached cartilage strands. That's something I'm seeing more of just the last 2-3 weeks. Each image shows a little bit different webbing, so apparently there's quite a bit of variation. But if you'll recall, these bones here used to just come up and attach around. Well, originally they just hung out in the open, but then this center line grew and they would come and attach up here. But now, as the rib cage drops lower and lower, it's very hard for him to get all the way up here. So I think that's why the cartilage is webbing, coming together, and then just a few attachments up here. And here you can see the angle on these floating ribs, which we did not used to have floating ribs, but now we have 4 of them. These used to be more straight out like this, and now they're angled much further down. Let's see some other changes. I think that's everything. I know I'm going to forget something. Okay, so, oh yes, the other thing that I almost forgot. I've noticed that in a lot of recent, well, not a lot, but some recent images, the top of the skull is looking a lot more flat, and in some images it's even kind of pinched in. And here's an example of it here. See where it kind of pinches down and then back up, and it happens right here at this cranial fissure. I'm seeing more images like that. I'm suspecting that we might start to see more and more of that, where the cranium is flatter at the top and longer at the back. Now, for many people, these fissures have changed position quite a bit, too, from the old days. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of some recent changes I've seen in the skeleton. Now, the last video we talked about sesamoid bones, and I want to cover a little bit more about the potential uses of the sesamoid bones. Now, as a review, here's a picture of some little sesamoid bones. Sesamoid bones are little bones that are stand-alone, almost like little pebbles or sesame seeds that are not attached to the main skeleton. Here's a quick reminder of this is some of the sesamoid bones in the foot. Not everybody has all these bones, but apparently everybody's supposed to have these 2 right here on the big toe. Okay, so what is the purpose of these sesamoid bones? right now they're said to be mostly just to aid in the function of the tendons, or as a kind of a useless bone that just kind of happened to form in the case of these accessory bones here. So what might these sesamoid bones eventually turn into? Now here's an interesting example I ran into. Elephants get a 6th toe for Christmas after a 300-year wait. Okay, so what this article is talking about is that they're saying that some elephants have a 6th finger or toe, and they're calling these things pre-digits, and they're actually formed out of very long developed sesamoid bones. So they're not like really a finger, they just happen to look like a finger and they operate like a finger, but they're called a pre-digit. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Let's see, where does it say? Has confirmed that the enigmatic pre-digits are not real toes, but even more interesting than that, the team found that the pre-digits are enlarged, elongate versions of small, round, and tendon-anchoring bones present in many mammals called the radial or tibial sesamoids. Elephants have turned these humble little bones into massive strut-like structures that rival the size of true toes. Okay. Hutchinson's team found that the giant pre-digits of elephants form in a very strange pattern, first developing as the cartilaginous rod that previous studies had often dismissed as a minor curiosity, but later in life beginning to turn into bone that form in haphazard positioned patches around the cartilage. Some elephants they studied even lacked bone pre-digits at adulthood. This is not unusual, as sesamoid bones in other species tend to be highly variable. So some of the elephants are developing these pre-digits and others aren't. Not fingers, but playing finger-like roles. Now here's interesting is that other animals also have these. Giant pandas also have extra thumbs that are famous examples of evolutionary exaptation, or the co-option of old structures for new functions, and correspond to the same sesamoid bones in elephants. Also, earlier this year, a Swiss team noted that moles, which have the same structures, have taken the molecular mechanisms used to develop true digits and applied those mechanisms to turn their sesamoid bones into false 6 fingers as well. But pandas use their pre-digits for grasping, and moles use them for digging. Okay, so here we have 3 different animals that have developed their sesamoid bones into extra digits, which they're calling pre-digits. I think that's pretty interesting because it kind of shows us what these sesamoid bones might later turn into. They can be used for all kinds of things, including an extra toe. And one thing I've really noticed is you probably recognize these. This is a cat that has extra toes. It's called Polydactylism. Now, this is not a Mandela effect for me. I do remember these from when I was a child, but they were considered very rare at that time. What I've kind of noticed lately is there's been a lot of talk about them. This particular one has a thing that I'm hearing a lot of talk about now, where the extra toes form kind of like a big toe pattern. So it looks like the cat has a giant thumb here, and they're calling that mitten toes or mitten paws. And I'm seeing a lot of polydactyl cats now with these mitten paws. It looks like they have a giant toe. So I found that kind of interesting. They're also saying now that the gene for polydactylism is a dominant gene. So that means that if one of these cats has kittens, approximately 50% of the offspring will also have this so-called abnormality. It's not that abnormal anymore if half the offspring have it. There's a whole breed of cats that apparently have been bred to have these, called Hemingway cats. So it just seems like the whole extra digits thing is becoming a lot more popular in this timeline than I recall it from my old timeline. And I think we're going to see more and more creatures with extra digits, extra parts, all kind of weird things like that. So it might be interesting to see what we get in the end there. Oh, that's going to be for my next video there, where I'm going to talk about the hyoid bone. Anyway, so that's it for today. Keep your eye out on the extra digits and the sesamoid bones, and we'll see where it goes. This is Eva signing off. Once Upon a Timeline.